Hey there, guys, and welcome to round 2 of this whole advice thing. Wow, I was, not gonna lie, I was not expecting the kind of reaction that I got in the last video. That was amazing to see you guys and the turnout that it got and all that kind of stuff, and I'm glad to see all the questions that I got that were, like, all legitimate questions. I'm not gonna lie, though, I got way more than I ever expected. I have over 50 questions here. 50 is a little too many to answer in one video, so maybe this will have to become like a weekly thing? Maybe? I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that. But I'm going to try to answer as many as I can today in a reasonable amount of time. So you'll have to bear with me here, if this takes a couple weeks to get through all of them. And I'm sure I'll get more in the comments on these videos. If I don't get to your question in this video, I'm sorry. I will get to it as soon as I can. I just don't want to inundate people with these random advice videos over and over and over again, you know? Also, I'm sorry if I sound kind of like crap. I'm still getting over my sickness. I have a pretty bad cough right now, so I'm trying to, just speaking of, I'm trying to suppress that. So, let's just start off here with the first question I got, which is from Crab Stance. And he says, I like how the suggestions are mostly dating advice. Is that to say you gotta treat your LPs like a lady? Well, honestly, there's more truth to that statement than you'd think. I'm the kind of person who I'm a fan of respect between myself and my viewers, and between my viewers and my viewers. So I think there should be a level of mutual respect between all of us. I respect you guys, and I hope to get that same respect in reciprocation. Is that a word? I like to get that same respect in return. So that's really important to me, and I try to make that evident in my videos. So yes, in some ways, I mean, treat your LPs like a lady, treat everybody with mutual respect, and you'll get respect back. It's a pretty straightforward thing, generally. I like to think, at least. The next question is from Shadow Dragon Gem, and he asks, do you have any advice on blind LPing, game choice, and commentary? Well, I kind of covered game choice and commentary in the last video, so I'll try to stay off of that. But blind LPing, the most important thing I can say about blind LPing is react. React to stuff. I mean, I find myself so often when I'm sitting playing a game, like, I'll think in my mind, wow, that's kind of crazy, or something. But you gotta try to put that thought into words, and, like, not just like, oh wow, I can't believe that just happened. Like, you actually gotta put emotion into it. Not to say that you need to overreact. That's not what I'm trying to say. You just got to try to convey the level of shock that might be in your thoughts into emotion in your words. Because that's the main attraction of a blind LP for most people. Is not, for some people it's watching you struggle, sure. But a lot of people, at least my Final Fantasy videos, are more about vicariously experiencing the game again for the first time. So many people have played Final Fantasy VI, for instance. And they've played it to death over the last 15 years plus. Has that been out for 20 years now? No. Yes. 19 or 20 years? Oh my god. But they've been playing it to death for that long. And I had never played it before. So they know everything about the game. Everything seems like just as it should to them. But for me, I've never played it before, so they get to relive what their reactions were like the very first time they played the game through my reactions. So I guess that would be my main point, would just be react. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Don't, like, ask people to necessarily tell you exactly how to do it, but I think that level of interaction between your audience and you is great. Like, taking people's advice in on the comments of every video and directly applying that to your next video, it's a level of interaction that would be almost insurmountable by anyone else in your video. I mean, how can someone get more interactive with their video besides between every single episode taking someone and everyone's comments into account and putting that directly into the next video so they can see the fruits of their watching your video? I think that's really important as well. So for blind Let's Playing, especially RPGs, that's kind of what I know most. So that's where most of my advice is going to be tailored towards. Yeah, those two things are really important in my opinion. This next question comes from Zero Aragon, And he asks, what software do you use for recording sound, like your microphone, and do you use any enhancements on the video or audio while editing, like color correction, pitch? Is there any software to tweak recording voice that you can recommend? Well, I use Audacity to record all my microphone audio. Outside of a code commentary, and that's a kind of different beast, because you got to worry about precise synchronization, when you're in the same room at least. And that's something I can get into later on. But Audacity's great. It's free, it's very powerful, etc. I don't use any enhancements on my video or audio, really. I kind of crop out the borders, the black borders on my video, but my audio pretty much, outside of volume editing from like inside Sony Vegas, any video editing program is going to have volume editing. Outside of that, I don't do anything. My pop filter takes care of pretty much everything that I would need to edit out anyway. Any software to tweak my recording voice? Audacity actually has a whole bunch of effects, but outside of that, I can't recommend anything specific. I mean, I guess it would depend on what you want to do, but for the most part, generally, you don't want to modulate your voice any more than you have to. You want to keep it as voice-like as you can. So, yeah. Speaking of code commentary, however, from earlier, if you guys are in the same room, like, for instance, Josh Jepson and I were both in these... That was odd, it said Josh Jepson in my headphones. Sorry, that kind of threw me off really bad. If you're in the same room, there's a program called Crystal Audio Tools that I would totally recommend. It allows you to record multiple microphones at the same time, and that way there's no desynchronization between tracks. Josh and I found when we were recording that I was recording my microphone on my computer into a file, and he was recording on his into a separate file, and then we had a clap that was loud enough to pick up on both microphones, and that was our synchronization point. And no matter how close we got that clap to be perfect, the audio would start out great, and it would start to desync over time. And I'm not completely sure why. My guess would be maybe a different recording frequency or something. But Crystal Audio Tools allows you to record them both on the same computer, 100% synchronization. It's fantastic. So that's when you're in the same room. That's something great. Other than that, for recording code commentary through Skype, you can use Audacity would allow you to record, if you have two Audacities open, you can record your microphone in one and stereo mits in the other. If you don't have stereo mits, you're kind of SOL. I mean, there are analog ways to work around it, but it's not very easy and or worth it. Otherwise, if you have virtual audio cable, you can use that to mix your microphone and your stereo mix into one line, and then use Audacity to record that, and that would give you 100% perfect synchronization. Both of those are options for you. This next question comes from Mega Tyler 121, and he just asks, I'm getting into LPing, I'm trying to choose a game, I'm thinking either Brawl or Pokemon Heart Gold or Soul Silver. The problem is I don't have anything to record with that comes out in good quality. He knows about capture cards, but no cache, so what can you do? For Heart Gold and Soul Silver, DS games are really hard to LP, just in general. Some people try to do it camcorder style. I personally don't like watching that. I'm kind of biased against camcorder LPs. I don't think their video quality is that great no matter what you do. So I'm not a big fan of that. And emulating it while it works can be rather difficult, especially with both screens to edit it in. So that would be hard. And Brawl, you can get one of like the easy caps or something that are really cheap, but their quality is just terrible. I mean, if for any decent kind of quality, you'd really need like a Dazzle or... What capture card does Tim use? It's like $30 or something, and that has decent quality as well. So you get one of those. Other than that, I mean, there's of course always, if you wanted to pick a different game, there's emulators. I mean, you can record in great quality as long as you have a decent computer with emulators. So that's an option as well, with either Fraps, which is $30. I did pay for that, totally worth it. Otherwise, you can get Camtasia, or I'm pretty sure there's other screen recording softwares out there as well that might be free. I'm not the biggest knowledge base on those because I have Fraps. So, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to save some cash, I would definitely try to stick to emulators. I mean, some emulators even have just export to AVI. Like, I think VBA, Visual Boy Advance, has that, and SNES 9X, or no, ZSNES I think has that. And that's just a direct capture, so you don't even need a screen recording program for that. So if you're trying to keep costs down, I would definitely try to stick to emulated games. I know it's not the best answer in the world, but it's the most realistic thing you can do if you're trying to not spend too much money. Sorry. Arietta1117 asks, when you say make friends with other LPers in the community, how? I've been afraid all this time to communicate with others since I'm still fairly new to the LP community, but it's a little hurtful when one tries to make friends with other LPers and they don't give you the time of day. What kind of advice would I give? Honestly, that's a hard question, because some people out there just aren't interested in the community, which sucks, frankly, because I think that's one of the best parts of Let's Playing is the community. I'm trying to think of... I was a little too brash, I think, in the last video when I was talking about just go make friends, because it's never that easy. And you can't just go send someone a message like, hey, let's co-commentate together. But I mean, I would just, personally, I'd search YouTube for an LP of a game that I like. For me, it might be Golden Sun or Link to the Past or something like that. Hopefully try to find one in progress and watch it and see if I like the guy. If I like his commentary style and stuff, start leaving comments. I mean, everybody out there is looking for, whether they realize it or not, I think they're looking for friends. Whether that be in the comments of people leaving comments on their videos and they think of them as fans, but I think of my fans as friends, personally. So, I mean, if you like his stuff, start commentating on it. And, I mean, that's the first step to building up a repertoire with them. And if you can make friends with them, definitely make friends with them. And who knows, that could lead to co-commentary with them. Or, I mean, just a neat friendship. I mean, whatever. It's not all about co-commentary, even though that is way fun and awesome. So I mean, yeah, that's not the best advice. I'm not the most social person in the world myself, so I don't feel I can give the best advice on that. But there it is. I tried. Sorry if that didn't make much sense. Hopefully that was at least semi-helpful. Next, JediXKing98 has a couple questions. He asks, do I use a laptop or desktop computer to record my Let's Plays? I use a desktop normally, but I mean, as long as you have a decent laptop that it doesn't run super slow, you can totally record with those as well. Emulators might be a little bit harder on those if you're emulating like a 64 or a GameCube or even a Wii, which is emulatable, but not really worth it in my opinion. I'm biased to desktops. Laptops work equally well in most situations. Which audio program do I use to record my voice? As I mentioned earlier, I use Audacity. And what pop filter do I use? There really aren't many differences for the most part. Basically, if you just go to Amazon.com and search pop filter, you'll find some. They run like probably $8 to $15 depending. Any of them should work fine. Most of them are designed to work with a microphone stand. So if you don't have a mic stand, I'm trying to think of what you could do. Some people report success with just putting a sock over the microphone. Honestly, that works kind of more like a wind filter than a pop filter, but it works almost as well, so you could try that as well, and just see if it gives you decent sound quality. I'm afraid that would muffle your voice too much, but if people have recorded success with it, I'm not going to argue with success, but I haven't tried it myself. So your mileage may vary on that one. And one more from JediXKing98 would be, what's a good way to record a Skype call? As I mentioned earlier, I kind of got off topic when I was talking about Audacity. If you have virtual audio cable, which is a program you can use to interleave two audio streams together, you can use that to put your microphone and the Skype call audio together, and you can record that with Audacity. Other than that, you definitely should have stereo mix to record a Skype call. It's going to be very difficult to record a Skype call without it. So if you don't have that, you'd have to do a bit of research into how to get stereo mix on your computer. It's different for everybody and more difficult for everybody, so that's unfortunately something I can't give advice on. Otherwise, you can record your microphone in one copy of Audacity and have another copy of Audacity running and record the Skype call with that and then mix them together in editing in Sony Vegas or Pinnacle Studio or Windows Movie Maker or whatever you use. All of them would allow you to have multiple audio tracks. So that's something you can do as well. Yenvin asks, just wonder how I and other people think of people who are not native English speakers doing Let's Plays. I think they're awesome. For instance, I watch Raocow all the time. I love Raocow, and he's a French-Canadian guy who has a pretty heavy accent, and he uses Let's Plays to keep up with his English, for instance. And he's hilarious. I absolutely love him. So I do not think accents should play... I don't think you should be embarrassed or self-conscious about your accent. If anything, in some aspects, it makes you more funny. But it does not really impact your ability for success or hilarity or anything in any meaningful way, in my opinion at least. I find those people equally enjoyable. ApicNick1221 asks two things. First off, what do people like watching more, blind Let's Plays or 100% Let's Plays? I think people enjoy watching both, and I think it really depends on the game. For instance, Final Fantasy VI, I'll go back to that, or Final Fantasy IV, tons of people have LP'd those, and there wasn't really anything else I could bring to like the 100% Let's Play of that besides my own style of commentary. But a blind Let's Play on that is far more interesting in that case, especially on RPGs. Blind Let's Plays of platformers and action-adventure games and stuff can be a lot less interesting just because a lot of times people watch, as I was talking about earlier, people watch blind Let's Plays for the reactions to stuff. And most of the time, the reactions are to the story. And platformers and action-adventure games usually don't have too much story to react to. So it kind of works against the whole idea of a blind Let's Play. So in that case, 100%, in my opinion, would be better for that. But it really depends. It depends on what you want to do. You can 100% it, you can just play through it and beat it, you can play it blind, you can do whatever. I mean, let's play how you want to. But stand behind the choice you make. Don't regret later on that you didn't do 100%. Give it your all now. Go big or go home. Because if you don't, you might regret it later. That's how I view it, at least. Also, what do I think of John's Superman 64 Let's Play? I think it's really fascinating. It's really neat in a lot of ways. It's really interesting to watch. It's a very different style, you're right. It's a heck of a lot of work, but it really shows through in the video and makes it that much better to watch, in my opinion. It really highlights every aspect about the game, and Superman himself, and other Superman games, and tons of stuff. So, I mean, if you have the dedication for that kind of thing, it doesn't work with every game. I mean, you couldn't really do that with the rich history of Peggle or something. I mean, maybe you could. But yeah, for some things it totally works. Being informative and super informative is great sometimes. The more knowledgeable you are, knowledge is power, right? Ooh, AppitNick1221 is back again for another question on video length. Is 12 minutes, 18 minutes, what kind of video length is a good video length time? Personally, I like to keep my stuff between 15 and 20, 20 being like the maximum I generally try to do. At that point, it's really hard to keep people interested. To a point, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, there are, of course, obvious exceptions. In an RPG, if you're in, like, a crazy boss battle followed by an epic cutscene, you don't really want to cut that up, necessarily. So there are times where a longer video is warranted. But, for instance, Mario and stuff, the 13 to 17 minute is generally what I try to shoot for in that. It's still rather bite-sized, but it's a healthy chunk. That's what I think about it. So somewhere in between there, I think, is the best, in my opinion at least. Some people like really long parts, however, and some people just want to sit down for 10 minutes and watch a video. So it really depends. It depends on what you're into, but that's how I feel. The Final Smash asks, I've played Skyward Sword through once, and it's awesome fun, and I kind of see LPs like I need to know everything about the LP, but that's in between the two extremes. That's in between 100% Let's Plays and blind Let's Plays. So, would a vague knowledge of the game work? It really depends, I think. For instance, my Super Mario Galaxy 2, I suppose it's a rather vague knowledge of the game, just because I don't know everything about it that's coming, and it's not like I'm like, oh, here's everything about the game ever. But I have beaten the game multiple times, and I like to think I'm quite good at it. So that kind of makes up for the, like, oh, in this next world is that, and after that it's this, and after this is this. It's not like I can speak to the game to that level of intimacy, but it doesn't matter necessarily because my gameplay is still, and I'm sounding totally pig-headed here, but the gameplay is still decent. My fear was something like Skyward Sword, having a vague knowledge of it, is there's so much to collect in that game, like heart pieces and just all the side missions and everything, that not having a complete knowledge of the game would be detrimental in some ways. Mario Galaxy, it's pretty much comet medals and stars, and that's all you have to collect. It's pretty straightforward. So in that kind of game, it's doable. Skyward Sword, I'm very partial to 100% Let's Plays in that case. I mean, if, as I have said multiple times, go big or go home. If you're going to do it right, in my opinion. So I would 100% that personally, and in that case, you would have to have a fairly intimate knowledge of the game in a lot of ways. So that's what I'd say. I mean, in some games, a vague knowledge works, but most of the time, especially for something like Skyward Sword or something, I would recommend having a more intimate knowledge. That GamerDude9000 asks if it's possible to get rid of the distortions when using a Dazzle when you're editing using Pinnacle Studio. Because I was talking about the lines that appear on the top or bottom of the screen in the last video. It's possible, kind of. I mean, you can't really crop in Pinnacle Studio, to my knowledge, which is dumb. But you can, as someone actually put in the comments, you can put rectangle boxes over the stuff. So if you make a really small rectangle, yeah, I mean, you could cover up those distortions using a black box. And if you do that on all the edges, you'd make a pretty crisp edge for all your stuff. I mean, it's a lot more work than it should be, but to my knowledge, that's pretty much the only way you could do it. So it's not the happiest answer in the world, but it's a semi-solution at least, right? ProtonJonSA says that he's not trying to say this in a bad way, or she, possibly, but should they just talk to some random person who's as unpopular as them and then do co-commentaries with them? That's not what I was trying to say at all, and I apologize profusely if it came out that way. As I said earlier, I was being kind of brash last video, I think. Inadvertently so. But no, I was talking about this earlier. Go find a video or a Let's Play of a game that you really like, and hopefully it's in progress. I'd recommend finding one in progress, and just leave a comment if you like the person, and start building that repertoire with them. You can't always expect people to come to you and build relationships with you. Sometimes you got to go out and build them yourself. So it doesn't matter who they are. I mean, of course, everybody's looking for a friend. So the people out there who aren't getting many comments on their video and are looking for that feedback, of course, they're going to be a lot easier to gravitate with. And unfortunately, some bigger Let's Players won't give you the time of day. And it sucks, but I mean, that's how people are in some ways. So yeah, just go out and be likable, be friendly with people, and who knows, you might build friendships, because friendships, in my opinion, are the most fun parts of Let's Playing. Most of my Let's Play friends that I have right now, my best friends, were made when I had very few subscribers. So, I mean, don't think of yourselves as go find someone as unpopular as me. Go find someone who's on an equal playing field with me, possibly, or maybe even a higher playing field, and make friends. Because it is possible. You can't just approach it bluntly. But it's definitely doable. I mean, I made friends with Patrick randomly. It just kind of happened. So yeah, just go and spread yourself. No, that's not what I'm trying to say at all. Never mind. There was a quote there somewhere, but I couldn't seem to make it happen. So I failed you. I'm sorry. The Game Boy generation asks, what if I don't think my voice is good enough? Well, don't let that hold you back. I did not like my voice at all. Ever. I still kind of don't, in a lot of ways. I'm amazed how many people are like, oh my god, I love your voice. That blows my mind still, because I'm like, I sound weird. Don't let that hold you back, because everybody sounds weird to themselves. I'm used to hearing myself now. Like, I don't really notice that I sound different inside my head than I do on camera now, since I'm so used to hearing my own voice by this point. And you do get used to it, totally. So don't let that hold you back now, because you might sound weird to you, but you don't sound weird to others. So don't try not to let that hold you back. I realize it's not that easy, but just go for it anyway, because truly you'll find that other people don't think you sound weird, even though you think you sound weird. 'Cause I think I sound weird, and apparently other people don't think I sound weird. Maybe you guys do, I don't know. But, yeah. Click Here Now asks, what do I recommend for a screen recorder? Well, I'm partial to Fraps myself. You have to sometimes meet some specific requirements, like for instance, Visual Boy Advance doesn't work with Fraps unless you change the rendering to Direct 3D, I think, or OpenGL, I think, works with Fraps as well. So most emulators you can use Fraps with, it works great. The only thing is it makes big files, huge files. That's one downside to it. There's also stuff like Camtasia that people use. I haven't used Camtasia myself, but people use it all the time to great levels of success. So that's possible as well. However, what do I personally recommend? I'd recommend Fraps myself. This one ought to be fun. Pikmin2468 says, I have some real advice. Attend conventions that big LPers attend, then try to force your way into hanging out with them and be in their videos, so that you can start to get mentioned. In other words, just be a leech. I have many things to say to you, good sir. However, I will start with this. In some ways, yeah, it works. It's not the best way to try to get subscribers, in my opinion, because it isn't really that great. I mean, for instance, if you were trying to make fun of me, which I'm assuming you were, you might not have been, and if you weren't, well, my apologies that I assumed that of you. However, I'm going to work on the assumption that you might have been. Therefore, yes, you're right, I did attend PAX East. Yes, you're right, I was in some Big LPers videos. However, no, you're wrong, that wasn't my intention. I just was hanging out with them, and that happened to happen. And yes, I did gain some subscribers over it, but not very many. And my views didn't really go up very much. I mean, I think when I went to PAX East, I had 37, 36, 35 subscribers, something like that. And then come 2 months later, I want to say I had 200, 250, but my video views didn't go up at all. Hardly at all, at least. So, sure, while I might have gained subscribers out of the deal, I didn't really gain any views, and subscribers is just a number. Some people like to think subscribers as, like, yes, they're individual people, therefore I feel better about myself. But the real telling thing is what your video views are like. You could have 10,000 subscribers and get 100 views on each of your videos, and that 10,000 means nothing. And this quote-unquote real advice you offer, while sure, it might gain you some, like, superficial subscribers, it rarely gains you any views. So it's not the best way to go about it for sure. Like, sure, people might learn your name, but it doesn't really help. And it's not very effective for all the money that you'd spend going to a convention to just try to get your name out there. Not worth it, in my opinion. And finally for today, Pibnemos asks, how do you deal with desync in audio and editing? I've tried and get so desynced while recording, I just strap the whole video. What I do generally, I mean, with Wii stuff, for example, when I have my video and my audio recording already, and I'm all ready to go, I will bring up the home menu, I'll press the home button, and when you press the home button when you're on the home menu to get the home menu to close, it makes a beep. It makes bing! And so right when I press the home button, I will say into my microphone, beep! I'll say it normally louder so that it's really easy to see in the editing window later on. And then all I have to do is line up the beep from the home menu and the beep from my voice, and I have perfectly synced audio every time. It's fantastic. However, with something like Final Fantasy, for example, no double four. double 4 would be 8. An 8 example just doesn't make any sense. I would generally beep and load the state, because the moment I load the state, it brings a little "you loaded state" icon in the bottom left-hand corner. And I will do that 3 times, and I'll beep each time I hit the button, and then I can just go frame by frame, find the first frame that the "you loaded state" thing appears, line that up with the first beep, make sure the next 2 beeps are lined up while I'm watching, and voila, I have perfectly synced audio again. So that's why I always try to record my audio in a separate file using Audacity from my game audio, because then I have the power to make sure it's synced up perfectly. That's my personal recommendation as to what to do. However, I think that's going to be it for today's thing. I've answered something like 18 questions, maybe 17. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be. Hopefully not too long. Also, in the description, it's kind of stupid to say this at the end of the video, but there will be links to each individual question with a timestamp. You can click on the link to watch the answer, or listen to the answer, rather. There's not much video to each question if you have specific questions you have an interest in. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching this if you stayed through this whole thing. If you didn't stay through this whole thing, thank you anyway. Thanks for coming and watching part of it. Though you're probably not hearing this thank you, so it's irrelevant anyway. Either way, I'm getting off topic here again. As I might say, I digress. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you're having a fantastic day.